And good afternoon. It was not my prediction, at least, but a couple of people got the predictions right. 2-1 to Liverpool in a very frustrating game. We're joined by Sir Z and Brian again. Gentlemen, I don't think we played particularly badly at all. I thought we played quite well. We definitely had a plan to let them do their possession stuff because they weren't really threatening us. And I think that's something that Arlie Slot looked at, maybe, or the scouts or whoever did. But you couldn't tell because, I hate to harken on it, but the referee destroyed the flow of that game. That was one of the worst refereeing performances I've ever seen. Sir Z, it seems churlish to talk about a referee after a win, but it should have been a lot easier than that had the referee know what the hell he was doing. Am I wrong on that?
No, absolutely right. It's ridiculous. The calls that he was making they're just amateur calls. Like when I first moved to the country, I was a referee, and and I understand the referee's job can be hard, but these calls, like you get better calls at a Sunday club level than some of the calls that he was making, and it was just atrocious. Even the last one we've only seen a small sample of on the Slot this season, and he very rarely does he lose his call. For him to be like one kicking the ball away and then trying to run onto the pitch, like beat the referee up, that's how much it agitated everyone. It was just, the referee was absolutely not even championship level, very, very poor. But and the fact that we came away with a win, despite that, it's, thank God, done. Let's move on.
Brian, just to kind of get your input on the referee thing before we move on to the more important stuff. When you win a game and you're still complaining about the referee, that is surely a damning indictment on the quality of the refereeing. Because if you lose the game and you're complaining about the referee, you could be seen to be making excuses. But it was like twice at least, probably more, but twice when two players came together shoulder to shoulder on a 50-50 with the ball within playing distance of both players, he's blown the whistle. You don't even do that at youth level. Like, is there a thing where they're trying to make the game less physical and more conducive to family-friendly entertainment for the big dollars, or is it just a really bad training or qualification standard for British referees or English referees at least? Because some of those decisions you wouldn't expect at a youth game.
Well, I just go back to one person, Howard Webb. I mean, sorry, he's in charge right there, and so this is all on him. I mean, this has been, we've had so much inconsistency right there. I mean, you could go there and say, look at today, what was a yellow card was a red card yesterday in the Arsenal match. So, I mean, that's one thing right there. I mean, gotta have standards. You gotta have things need to be on par across the board, and I don't see that right now. I mean, I can understand you putting in personal decisions and things like that there, but when you ruin the run of play, I mean, it really just destroys, like you said earlier, destroys the whole match. And I think that second half was the stop go the entire time. I mean, to where there was no way that either side had a flow on that match. I mean, there was one that the Diaz foul that he called on there. I was like, how is it even anything? I mean, okay, so you're gonna go there, blow a whistle and something like that when there was such minimal contact. The last time I checked right there, this sport is a contact sport. I mean, so where are we going with this? Like you said, are we going to go where we're going to go to just nobody comes there and touches anybody? And do we have is this going to be a flag football or a type of event? I just don't understand where we're at the moment. I mean, I guess I hear the same complaint right there when people talk about American football with how that is with the contact, and we're seeing the same thing here. I mean, in this sport right there, where this legitimate tackles right there are getting called as fouls, shoulder to shoulder, blowing the whistle and calling fouls. It's a lot.
I guess, well, I'll just wrap the referee thing up with saying I don't trust referees who have shaved heads unless they're Pierluigi Collina, or referees who have fancy hairstyles that went out of fashion in 2009, all the gelled up gel hair spiky stuff. But we leave that to one side. Let's look at the stats for the game. If you have better eyesight than I do. But we didn't win the possession, which I'm quite happy with. I'm not obsessed with winning like more possession than the other team, but we did have 5 shots on target to their 2, which to me establishes attacking dominance. So we also had 4 counterattacks to their 0. It seemed very much to me watching the game that the plan was to let them have the ball and hit them in the spaces they left with their possession game. Almost like if you all the teams that took us apart under Brendan Rodgers figured out that if you just let the team have the ball, they'll eventually create enough space for you to counterattack into. And we saw that so often under Brendan Rodgers. Maresca is of that same school of possession. Did Arnie Slot play this tactically correct?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, if it was done by design, I mean, at times in the game where I thought, what are we doing? We keep giving away possession every time we have the ball. But I mean, yeah, I mean, it was the plan and it worked to a T because we thought that we were going to have the possession and they were going to try and counterattack us. It was, I had a feeling Jackson might score just because, he probably won't score again for another 2-3 games. I think if that was Manchester City that was playing against us and we had the same sort of tactic, we'd probably get found out. But it worked. We kind of tired them out a bit where they had to bring 3 subs on at the same time, which that didn't make sense to me. And but I was thankful for that. I think it kind of disjointed Chelsea a bit and played into our hands. But yeah, it's, Slot's tactics have been on point so far this season. And, barring the Forest game, and it's another win. It could have been worse, given the circumstances with the referees and the odd, self-destructive mistakes that we've made. So was like, giving away the ball in stupid positions, especially, losing possession when we're on the attack, just for them to almost counterattack us. And, it's, there's a lot of improvements, but, it's an international week that's over. We managed to come away with a win. So hopefully, we strengthen up for next week.
Brian, on the Discord channels, I was came in for some criticism. My criticism was about the power of his shots. Suzy talked about giving the ball away, but after the game, I had a quick look at the stats. He only gave the ball away 4 times. Is it less than, and Salah gave it away 7? Is it less that the amount of times that you gave the ball away, but more the situations? Because they often lead, when Salah gives the ball away, it's usually in a position far away from our goal and not entirely in a critical position. Is it more the quality of, or the moment when he's given the ball away that's almost like, he just reminded me a bit of Jamie Redknapp, and it's not just the silky gelled hair. But Jamie Redknapp was capable of absolute brilliance sometimes, and then other times you're wondering what the hell he's doing in midfield because he's just creating another attack for Neil Ruddock to try and slog down, hail a taxi because he wasn't fast enough to run down the length of the pitch. Is it for Szoboszlai? Is it just that where and when he gives the ball away is more crucial than how many times he does it?
Absolutely. I mean, I can just go off one instance where he did that miss header, that back header that came through right back and spawned a Chelsea attack right in the center of the pitch. I mean, so yeah, it's the circumstances of when he does it right there, and I'm not going to really, I guess I harp about where I think he should be at as a player right there too many times. But I mean, ultimately right there, I guess I'll say with as what Bickler said right there, either, that he's probably just playing what Slot wants him to play, and he's fitting the role that he wants to be in. But I mean, to me right there, I'm not a fan overall of a lot of the things that he does. I mean, I think that I don't think he's a number 10, but yeah, I think it's just, I think, again, it goes back to right there, just the circumstances and when he gives away the ball and creates more pressure and on the people behind him. I mean, which goes right there, why you need to have like a McAllister or somebody right there, or somebody strong back behind him that has a good situational awareness, because that there's a possibility that the ball is going to get given up. Same thing goes with Mo. I mean, if you need to have players back there with more situational awareness.
From a player in the midfield who had doubts about him to one player that didn't have doubts about him, and for once I got a prediction right, Curtis Jones, he was absolutely fantastic in that game. Apart from the goal, I'm just looking at Daniel Sturridge on the BBC saying that he kept Cole Palmer quiet today, and he certainly did that. We talk about establishing a double pivot. Gravenberch has been a revelation in that position. McAllister is fantastic in there as well. But is there an argument for Jones and Gravenberch to be the pivot and McAllister to be the 10? If Jones can keep that.
I mean, I've been saying for McAllister going to that 10 slot for a while, but the only problem is, I think, what I said to my coworkers this week was, if you move McAllister up in 10 slot, you lose a lot of McAllister's game also at the same process. I mean, because I think that him sitting back there is he's able to have a lot more vision of the pitch right there versus versus if he was in a 10 more forward. Yeah, you're going to gain the shots, you're going to gain some of those like small passes, but you're going to lose the second best probably the second best passer we have on the side. I mean, besides Trent, I think I said that on Thursday night right there that McAllister has that same type of vision that Trent does, and with some of his passes that he puts up. So, I mean, ultimately, right there, I think that it's Harvey's spot, in my opinion, right there. When Harvey gets healthy, I think that Harvey is a far better number 10 than both McAllister and Szoboszlai. So, I mean, I'd be really hesitant about moving McAllister up in that spot, in my opinion.
So, see, we talked about the left side in the pre-match, and I think it came to pass. I think the left side was our weaker side. Gakpo didn't have his best game. He wasn't dreadful by any stretch. But Robertson started to show his age, which meant at times Curtis Jones had to come out, and sometimes Szoboszlai as well had to come out and fill in the gaps. Is there a case for maybe Tsimikas being a little bit more defensive than Robertson? Not as great going forward. Could be a starting option, or is it just a position we're going to have to buy a new left back sooner rather than later? And Gakpo cannot be guaranteed a start if he cannot do the exciting things that Diaz did on a consistent basis.
Yeah, I think someone said on Discord, I think it just highlights that left back should be our number one priority in terms of buying player in the next window. I like Tsimikas. I think he's a better attacker, but the fact that he didn't even come on today, given that Robertson didn't have his best game for us, was kind of telling. I thought Gomez was going to come on for Robertson, actually, but that didn't happen. And I think we missed the trick. We didn't test Reece James enough. We didn't get enough balls over his head. We didn't make him run. And so we made the game easy for Reece James. So we could have made it really difficult for him. Gakpo, like I say, he didn't have a bad game. I just don't think he had enough chances, and I don't think he took advantage of Reece James coming back after 18 months being his first game. We really could have caused a lot of damage, and we didn't take advantage of that.
Brian, for Robertson, he's a talismanic player now at this point. He has the status that Steve Nicol did in his last days. He has the status that Ian Rush did in his last days, in the sense that he's given us some great times, and he's capable of individual games or individual moments where he reminds us of how great he was, but they're becoming few and far between at this point. If Slot has a really cool head and a really cold outlook on it, is Robertson looking at being the bench left back by the end of the season?
I mean, it depends on who we get in. I mean, in my opinion, I think we missed out on a possible replacement with Lloyd Kelly. I thought that Lloyd Kelly would have been an ideal person to go in that left in that spot. But I mean, I think that we need to have a stopgap before, if we're vested in Luke Chambers to come there eventually to take that role, then we need to have a stopgap. I don't see that Simicast as that stopgap. I think again, he has a lot more defensive frailties that Simicast has, and there's also some moments right there where we want to talk about Robertson going missing. I mean, when you see Simicast right there, it's a mixed bag what you're going to get. I mean, some days right there you're going to see he's playing on par. Other days when he's playing, I mean, his crosses are totally out to lunch. I mean, his defending's out to lunch. I mean, you're completely lost to why he's on the pitch. So, I mean, I don't think you can afford to put Robertson on the bench right now, unless you wanted to put Gomez over there as your starting left back. I mean, which is a good possibility. But the thing with Gomez right there, you're still missing. You're going to miss an aspect that Robertson and Simicast both have with their crosses, because I don't think you get that role out of Gomez where you get a lot more defensive work that Gomez provides you. So, I mean, until we can go back in a transfer window and look for something that's actually a good deal to put in that position, I think we're kind of where we're at.
So Nunes came on. Nunes came on and he did a good job in terms of the running and the physicality and causing the chaos. But just looking at the stats here, he didn't have a shot. I mean, he was on for a lot of the game and he didn't have a shot. Not a shot on target. He didn't have a shot. Is the good parts of his game where he does cause the chaos? Does that mitigate the bad parts of, in this case, the number 9 not getting a shot at all, and also losing his head 10 seconds after winning a great free kick because he has the mentality of a 4-year-old who hasn't got his Gogurt on time? Is there enough in Nunes for us to keep plugging away with him?
Yeah, I don't think we have a choice. I don't know, who knows how bad the injury Jota suffered from that game. And Chiesa, unfortunately, looks like his reputation's preceding him. He's unavailable again. It doesn't look like Slot wants Gakpo playing through the middle, so it's now up to Nunes to try and keep that spot. When he did come on, he did play well. I mean, he stopped a lot of challenges. His defensive work, his work rate was immense. Not getting a shot in, I don't think that's much as his was. He didn't get many chances, so I really can't pin that on him. But yeah, but losing his head.
To be fair, Luis Diaz had less time and he got 2 shots.
Yeah, and he created his chance, but Diaz will always defend, and 9 times out of 10 he will take a shot. I don't think Nunes had that opportunity, but
surely he can make the opportunity though. Like, does he have to wait for the ball to be on a play for him? Like,
yeah, absolutely, and he's shown that before that he can. So I'm not sure why, why he didn't take a shot or have a shot or get himself into a position like that. I think Salah.
It's because he didn't get his Gogurt.
Yeah, I don't know. I think he had a good game, but barring the fact, obviously, not having a shot, but yeah, almost losing his head. That's pretty unforgivable. That's just stupid. He should learn now. I know all that does is give ammunition to the opposition. They know they can get at him. He's a nutcase. And he just, there's only so many arms you can put around him before, enough's enough. And I'm in the Nunes corner, but I do believe this will probably be his last season because he hasn't shown anything this season. He hasn't shown enough to warrant that we can stick by him anymore.
And Brian, obviously on the Thursday night show, we are seen as the enemies of Nunes, but the balance of it is that we've always wished him to do well. Yeah. But you've been saying it for a while, we don't have a number 9. Joe is not reliable enough. He's just not reliable enough, and Nunes is just not good enough. Mm-hmm. Bobby Dans, I think he's on loan, isn't he? Or
He is injured right now,
Oh,
working
injured,
his
okay.
way back.
I mean,
Yes.
surely there's somebody in the academy that can go up front and do a number 9's job.
You have Cannoner right there who could possibly bring, but I mean, again, this a lot of the number nine, a lot of our academy players are really too lightweight as far as to bring into this situation. I mean, I was going to say like for a long time, right there, the lack of number 9 options that we have right there is probably one of the weakest points of this side. I think it's more weaker than the number 10 spot that we have. I mean, because you have players right there. I mean, Gapco can play the position right there, but it's not his preferred position. Chiesa can play that position, not his preferred position. Mo can play that position, same thing, not his preferred position. Diaz can't play that position. I mean, it's not part of his game. So again, we're going back to we left a position hanging that we should have possibly came in there and filled. It felt maybe 2 years ago we should have probably went and got a young forward and brought him in. And that goes back to like a lot of things I said right there. It's preparation right there for that having stopgap players. I mean, something we didn't do back in 2019 right there with a lot of the players that we have on the side right there. We didn't have ready-made options right there to bring them in right there and to replace. Alamane, Bobby Firmino, those players right there that we didn't actually have somebody ready to roll in and say, okay, here's this guy that's going to come in, it's going to fill in for you, ease that person in right there to what our style was. I mean, so now I think we need to go back. We have a new system, new players, the playing methods and all that. So we need to go back into that same thought process and fill in some of these roles right there, which we know are eventually going to get replaced. I mean, number 9 is definitely one of the top ones to get replaced, but also you still look at back. I mean, Virgil's only going to be here for so long. Salah's only going to be here. There's another one. Salah's only going to be here for so long. So you need to start looking at who's going to be the next guy to go and fill that role. And right now, I mean, if you get to injury crisis, what are we going to do right here in that number 9 position? If Jones is injured, and what's going to happen if Nunez gets banned, gets stupid right there, gets a 3-match ban right there, then what do we do at that point? So I mean, it's just I guess it's just inside checkers and chess inside your head right there, and saying, hey, I need to come to be a one level above anybody else right there in these positions. So yeah, I think we definitely need a number 9.
Is there anything to be said for putting Watru Endo up there? Just for the fun of it.
We put Conquer up there before, so I mean, sure. Hey, why not?
It did work out for Paul Warhorse at Blackburn for about 6 weeks. You never know. So Z, the defense breached once, legitimately at least. Kanate taking one for the team, but is there a danger that without not proper left back, but without a left back at the top of their game, we're always going to be playing essentially with 3 at the back, maybe even 2 if we consider that Trent gets into the midfield a lot more than he gets into the right back position?
Yeah, I thought he had a good game today. Like defensively showing what he's actually capable of doing. So I think he had a good game defensively. Like I said, I think with Robertson, who have one good game, like okay, wow, and then another game, like So yeah, I mean, considering he's going to be up against Saka next week, it's scary. But yeah, and that is our weak point. Just not knowing what Robertson's going to turn up, and that's not to besmirch Robertson's talent. His legs just don't do what his head wants him to do, and unfortunately, we might get caught out. And playing against Saka, and and I have a good fast-paced right wingers. We're going to get we're going to get found out. Unless Robertson doesn't have that cover. And then going back to the number 9 position, I think we took Bobby. It just shows how much we took Bobby for granted. The fact that we had number 9, I wasn't so concerned about scoring goals, and that Salah and Mane kind of covered for him. We took that for granted, and so I don't think we haven't had a proper 9 since probably Sturridge. So that it's been a long time, and yeah, but Bobby really papered over the cracks of that. Jota is just hopefully the injury is not too bad, but he's unreliable in that sense.
He's probably out for 3 weeks with a paper cut, to be fair. Brian, Salah got the penalty. He didn't look supreme, but he certainly wasn't terrible either. He was good. However, he had a 55% passing accuracy. Is it the case that we kind of need to make sure we're not relying on Salah as the game changer anymore? That the game changer is going to come elsewhere, but Salah is still going to be the draw. Like Salah still makes teams panic when he gets the ball because of what he potentially could do. But if we're going to rely on him like we did a lot last season and maybe the season before under Klopp, we're going to become unstuck more often than not, because he's not capable of doing the things he used to on a more regular basis, rather than he just can't do it anymore. Is it the smart move to keep playing him, obviously, keep starting him, maybe get that 1 year extension, but start to look for other ways to hurt teams and use Salah as the decoy more than the actual weapon, so to speak?
I mean, absolutely. I mean, I think again, like you said, if you're having sides draw to him right there, and you're coming there, which is probably why you're seeing Diaz get so much more time inside the box right there, and actually more runs right there and there, because they're actually that is actually happening. But again, like that, I think that with Salah right there, I think you saw Salah changing his game after the African Nations Cup last year. You saw how he came back. When he came back, he changed what his method of playing, and also the injury that he had. That he wasn't the dynamic player that we saw many years before right there. I mean, yeah, he still got these goals in his repertoire. He still also has like the passing in his repertoire, but his number of assists have increased since that point right there. I mean, you see him becoming more of that type of player right there, drawing him, putting the ball in there in the box right there for players to get on the end of them. So, I mean, any player right there that you see right there that has the records and has the amount of goals that Salah has had in him, they are automatically going to be a target for any side. And, because again, he might be a little bit slower, but those things are still in it. He's still able to hurt you. And I think he does, and he still does. I mean, but if you really probably look at it this year right there, the pass rate right there is probably pretty consistent right there, about 55 to 60, somewhere in that range anyway. I mean, if we go through and look at the stats, I don't think there's been a game where he's been completely like 100% on fire. But again, he's still an impact player. I mean, because he can hurt you right there at any given moment. So, I mean, I think that's going to be the case probably for going forward with him.
So they just looking at the passes. The top passer on our team for that game was Virgil van Dijk. He played more passes than anybody. And after that, it's Andy Robertson, Curtis Jones, and Konate. Curtis Jones makes sense. He was such a central figure today, of course. Hopefully, he got the official man of the match. I haven't seen so far. And then after Ibrahim Konate, the next most regular frequent passer was Kelleher, the goalkeeper. Now, I'm allergic to possession for the sake of possession. Is this something we're going to have to get used to, that under Arne Slot, that we didn't maybe have to think about under Klopp? Is that the goalkeeper and the two central defenders are going to usually be the highest passers in the game? Because to me, the game should be played at the end where you need to score the goal, which is why I loved the Klopp game plan of pressing forward, because I grew up under Jack Charlton and that's where the game needed to be played, albeit more agriculturally. But do we have to get used to the ball going between two central defenders and the goalkeeper until something else opens up? And is that going to cause us problems down the line, which it hasn't really done so far to any extent, to be fair?
I think Slot, unlike Klopp, I think Slot he changes tactics depending on the opposition. I think with Klopp, he knew what you, and Klopp was like, "This is our team. You know, you have to face us." With Slot, he changes it. So I think today, I haven't seen the stats to the other games, so maybe today was maybe a one-off. I anticipate that most of our passing will be top, high passing rates will come from the midfield, because I think that's generally where he wanted to strengthen up and keep the possession. Not surprised with Virgil having a good high pass rate, because he generally does tend to get the ball, and generally some of the attacks do come from him, from the long passes and so forth. But yeah, I mean, I still get nervous, even though we haven't really we've only conceded 3 goals. Still get nervous playing out from the back, because it's just that one little mistake from the goalkeeper, and it's that's it. You put your pants down. So we've just been lucky so far that it hasn't, and our goalkeepers have kind of been on form, and the defenders have had their head in the game. It's you're inviting trouble, but we've only conceded 3, so I guess we're doing something right.
Brian, for the game itself, the result that puts us on top against over City, Arsenal lost. So there's now a bit of a gap between the top 2 and Arsenal, which almost seems like it's been almost the same thing. 5 out of the last 7 seasons. It's a different proposition for Pep Guardiola to face, and it's a different proposition for Arteta to face. Chelsea look like they're probably going to be up around there. Aston Villa may be up and around there, and Brighton will probably tail off around Christmas, as those early runners from the pack tend to do. Are you looking at this Liverpool team and the performances at this point? 11 wins, 10 wins out of 11. Isn't that, that's right? Not 11, 10 wins out of 11. Are you looking at us and are you saying, do you know what, this guy might actually know how to get us into a title challenge in his first season? Or is it the newness of the new manager, and then at some point people start to figure it out?
Let us get through this whole international, this next window we have before the international break. I think if we if we beat Arsenal next week and we go through unscathed between Leipzig and Leverkusen, and get through Brighton right there, and we're sitting in that point right there, then I definitely think that we're in the title chase. I mean, I think right now we're in a title chase period right there, because I think that you have the way we're playing, and also the way that the way City missing key elements that they have, namely Rodri. I mean, and having Kevin De Bruyne and not being the same player. Arsenal just being Arsenal, Lego head's going to go in there and is going to basically implode himself in that side anyway. And I just don't think that Arsenal is a consistent side. I think you're definitely in for it right there. I do think Chelsea is going to be in the mix, but once they are able to solidify themselves and actually find out who plays where, and I think that they will definitely come with there being a mix. Villa, I don't see Villa being involved. I think that there's too many missing links in Villa for me right there for them to actually go there and challenge. But I mean, right now, to me the title right now is between Arsenal and us and City. And I think that we have a good shot right now. I think we have a pretty good shot in the Champions League also, because I think with the way this format goes, I think that if we can go there and get into the top 8 and basically have to go and miss out on all that mess right there with the knockout phase, then I think we'll be in a good position right there, because then that gives us time to rest players and not have these midweek matches right there for at least a month, that we don't have to deal with that.
Susie, Arnie Slot says apparently after the game that Liverpool showed up, and that was the most important thing. I hate to keep making comparisons to Brendan Rodgers, but in terms of the play style and focus more on possession than direct counter-attack, etc., when we would have a tough game, or whether we won or lost, Rodgers would always be about the passing. We won the pass, and our possession was great. We showed great character, and our possession it was all technical stuff. Klopp was all about the emotion. I've said it before, Susie, and I'll say it again. Is Arnie Slot almost the perfect amalgam of the good parts of previous Liverpool managers? because it would be easy for him to come out and say our football was great, or I got my tactics right, or we knew what to expect. But he comes out and says we fought for it. That's what you need to do, and because that is really what you need to do, isn't it? If you want to be champions.
Yeah, and it seems like it. I mean, he seems like he studied up previous successful Liverpool managers, in Klopp, Rafa, Houllier, and this kind, and is just taking all the best parts and add his own into it. And I know, when he was being interviewed for the Liverpool, or when he was doing his interviews, he was saying that Pep Guardiola is like his idol, so he's taken a lot from Guardiola's game as well, which can only be good. So yeah, I mean, I said at the beginning of the season, I think we'll come minimum second. I'd be disappointed if we don't at least come second. The two are there. He hasn't had to uproot anything, hasn't had to, and he's in a really rare position where he took over a manager that wasn't fired. That manager voluntarily left after being successful. So he had a good nucleus squad. Just kind of self-destructed in March because of injuries, where we didn't go on to, have more of a, say, in a title race. He just tweaked a few things and he just went with it. And he hasn't let his ego get in the way like, Rodgers would have done, and try to make it all about him. It's just been a flawless transition, and we're just going with it. And I love the fact that he showed the fight at the end. Like, you can tell he was really upset at the referee, the decisions that are going against us. And that's what we wanted, So he's still, you can tell he's still got, he's got some of that Klopp enthusiasm or passion, of which we didn't think he had. So it's great. It's kind of like a perfect. If you're going to have a manager that was going to take over a club, I think that this was in FSG really did a good number of this one.
Before you go to Brian and we start to wrap up, I just want to say you said that word passion like a Californian there. You may want to watch this episode back, Susie. You sound exactly like a Californian. Passion. Brian, I'll get final thoughts from you first, and then final thoughts from Susie. A good day at the office, but you keep. If we hadn't lost the Forest, would you be sitting there thinking, I'm just waiting for it to all fall down? Does that loss to Forest mean we know we're human, and Slot knows we're human, and that we know that there's work going on to make sure we don't become complacent?
Absolutely, I think that loss, early loss to Forest, was a bring us down to earth type of moment, and I think it's going to make it's making us as a better football side. I think that's going to go a long ways with him. That we do have the ability to lose, and then it was ability to point these players of what they've done wrong for that loss. I mean, because really, honestly, right there, I hate to beat that thing. We should have won that match against Forest. We had so many opportunities in there, so many missed chances, so many things like that. And I think those are moments. And to get hit at the end the way we did was a big sucker punch, and that maybe was a sucker punch that we needed to have. But my big thoughts right there to go with this match right there was, one, it's a big 3 points right there against a potential side, one of the big six, if you want to call them that, or however that thing came around right there to say right there, to get the 3 points, to still say in the title race, to actually have to play a fairly decent match, against top opposition right there. I mean, these are all things that you can count. Plus, we're coming off the international break with a win, and that that in itself right there is a big thing for me, because I mean, how many times do we come off these international breaks and then suffer like a whole setback? So I'm happy with the 3 points, and I'm curious to see how we're going to do next, how we're going to build off of the Leipzig match this week, and then move on to Arsenal and in here on next Saturday.
And Susie, final thoughts?
Yeah, Brian. That Forest hurt still loses. That Forest loss still hurts, but the pressures, if we'd have won that and we carried on, like there'll be the pressure of, right, well, when are we going to lose? When are we going to lose? And I'd have lost to Forest than lost to Chelsea or Arsenal. And it came at a good time at the beginning of the season. It showed we're not in fact, like, that we can make mistakes and we learn from it, and we bounce back from that. So, the Premier League doesn't lie. It's probably the hardest competition to win, and we're on top for a reason. Despite the efforts of the referees taking City's side for everything, and everything else outside of Liverpool that contrived against us, we're top of the league, and we're only conceding 3 goals. We don't have our number 1 keeper in. It's good. It's great to be a Liverpool fan right now.
Certainly, it's a great to be a Liverpool fan anytime, really, apart from maybe 2010 for a period. But we're over that. It's 14 years. Yes, 14 years. So we're over that, thankfully now.
Roy still hurts.
It still hurts. Yeah, it's the paper cut that keeps coming back. But we can't complain. We're in a good spot now, and we have a Champions League game and another big game to look forward to next weekend. And I'm sure there'll be plenty of talk on the pods before that all happens. We will have the Monday coffee show, RT if you drink tea, tomorrow morning, and the Monday podcast on Monday night. We will be back on the Thursday with yourself and Brian for this one. But maybe not the Halloween one. We'll have to figure that one out, because I'll have to guard my house for trick or treaters. Because I'm not giving anybody any candy. I'm keeping it for me. But we are grateful to everybody who watched today for the post match and the pre match earlier on, and for all of the comments. If you are watching us and you are not liked and subscribed, then go do so. There's no better time like the present. Follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, X, formerly known as Twitter, and join us on the Patreon. Smash that like button or tap it gently if you are old and arthritic like me. And we will see everybody during the week. Thank you to Sir Z on his anniversary. Happy anniversary. And thank you to Brian on his anniversary of not getting a Nunez goal and me not getting a hat trick. It's going to happen. I'll take everything back.
One day.
I'll even admit that Bickler was right about Szoboszlai's bad shot. It was terrible, and he should have bowled that more. But I'll even say he was right on that if Nunez gives us the hat trick that I so badly desire. But for the rest of us, it is a great weekend. So enjoy the rest of it. Be safe out there. Have a good one. Peace out. And we'll see you soon.